Being here. Stop following me, so
it's not better when you're sleeping.
Oh wait, I recorded. I'm a dumbass. Documentation.
Man, it's full. Atascante, full.
Hey guys, Beanzo's here. Thanks for watching my next video on Project Unknown. For those of you that have been following, I really appreciate you. Today's video is going to be about human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that stuff. Now, for those of you that haven't been following or are new to my channel, my last video was about Satanism. And today I'm going to link Satanism with human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, all that stuff. And I'm also going to show you just how high up it goes in terms of levels of society. How it can reach the highest levels of society and has done so for thousands of years now. Okay, so let's jump right into it. In 2012, the Wall Street Journal reported that around 8 million children go missing around the world every year. And the actual number is more than likely to be a lot higher, sadly. Human trafficking is a $32 billion a year industry. In the US, the average age a teen enters the sex trade can be as low as 12. In 2017, there was a total of 650,000 missing people in the US alone. Now, obviously, that is a whopping number. 650,000 people in 2017? In the US alone? And what's even crazier is that there's no requirement from our government for people that go missing on federal land. Why? And not only that, but the FBI refuses to keep the number of missing children every year. They refuse to keep records of this. And you have to really ask yourself why. Why do they keep records of everything else except missing children and missing people's cases? Now, before we keep going, I would also like to point out another phenomenon that takes place in national parks. Specifically, there's thousands of missing children and adults that just disappear into thin air in these national parks. And I believe that it's separate from human trafficking due to the nature of these cases. They're very, very weird when you look into them. You can almost say they're supernatural. But that's a whole other video on its own. If you guys want, I can make a video on that. Just let me know in the comments below. So just to show you guys how big all this actually really is and how it's happening constantly around us at all times, I'm going to show you guys a simple Google search that I did that lasted about 5 minutes, and I found all of these examples just to show you guys. And I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. In the book A Crime So Monstrous by Ben Skinner, it points out how there are more slaves today than ever before. But I should also point out that the percentage of slaves today in comparison to regular people is the lowest it's ever been as well. There's another book written by Kevin Bales called Disposable People. This book states that in 1999 there were at least 27 million slaves, and the only year when the amount of slaves rivaled said amount was in 1861 with 3.8 million in the US. In 2016, the Walk Free Foundation estimated that there were about 40.3 million slaves worldwide. Let's talk about Haiti for a minute. In Haiti, after a child is sold, the seller tells his colleague to get more from impoverished families. They do this easier than you would think. Usually all it takes is a false promise that the child will be educated and well nourished. You have to understand that the average Haitian is extremely poor and schools are too expensive for most Haitians to afford. Over 80% of schools are private. Out of all the child slaves, 80% never get an education, and those that do can only do so when all of their labor is finished and they have to fund their own tuition. Now, one thing that baffles me is that drug trafficking is pursued a lot more vigorously than child/human trafficking. How does that make sense? Something else I'd like to point out is that one of the biggest factors that keeps human/child trafficking thriving is poverty. So now that we talked about Haiti, I'm going to tell you about how government approaches the issue. Senator Paul Wellstone sponsored legislation that put the U.S. at the forefront of abolishing all forms of slavery, including labor trafficking, forced domestic servitude, and debt bondage. He died in a plane crash. In January of 2000, a conference took place in Vienna where representatives from the President's Interagency Council on Women, chaired by Hillary Clinton, defined the issue too narrowly. Hillary didn't even show up. A January 10th Wall Street Journal was titled "The Clintons Shrug at Sex Trafficking," in which co-author Chuck Colson said, "The actions in Vienna will be counted as yet one more shameful act committed by this deeply corrupt administration." Clinton, 2 months into her first Senate campaign, retreated from the issue like a dumb... Now, up to this point, you may be asking yourself why I'm naming all these different types of slavery and what they have to do with human trafficking. Well, it's all connected. Slaves are trafficked, and that's where the whole issue comes from. And there's a lot of different types of slave workers and laborers. There's labor slaves, sex slaves, forced child soldiers in Africa. The many fields of unpaid labor contribute to items that are in your home right now. The overall major goal of this video was to show you how that exists in the highest levels of society. Just like I showed you in my last video how Satanism exists in the highest levels of society and the highest members of society practicing it. Well, human trafficking is no different than that. There's a lot of scandals that you can look into in the news. For example, here are just a few. Robert Kraft, Jeffrey Epstein, Alex Acosta, Andy Rubin, Nexium, which is a cult that has an actress named Allison Mack. I don't know if some of you remember her or not. It's a sex cult that abused children. The Franklin scandal and the Me Too movement are just all of these things that are starting to surface from this issue. And since there's information that is a lot more abundant now, thanks to the internet, people are allowed to look into this stuff a lot more than you would be able to, let's say, 50 years ago. So I really hope that this video helped you guys understand human/child trafficking a lot clearer and what it's actually involved with. And I hope I did a good job on that. Let me know how I did in the comments, or just give me any feedback is welcome. I believe that this is the end of this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in. For those of you that are following my page and my project and whatnot, I completely appreciate you. And like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. It'll really help me out. Get the message out. That's the most important thing. Let's get this message out. Let's get this information out there. because until as long as this information is kept hidden from the general public, nothing's ever going to change. And that's the whole point in this. The whole point in this is to increase the consciousness levels of the masses as a whole in order to put an end to all of this. Because this is something that's been going on for thousands of years. And it's nothing new. But I believe that it's time that we put an end to this and the people behind this. Anyway, thank you. I'll catch you guys next time.
Tell me, how I'm a clown.